And welcome into Poke the Bear episode 91, the Mark Savard episode. What could have been the Mark Savard episode? Man, it's still like really annoying that his career came to such an end so quickly. Because if you imagine what he could have ended up doing, what he did in just a short time with the Bruins, but what he would have done over 5-6 more years would have been incredible. And you wonder what that means for Krejci or Bergeron or like Chris Kelly, but it meant for those guys going forward. But anyways, I'm Evan Marinofsky. That is Conor Ryan. Conor, what is up?
Evan, doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. As we record this as the Red Sox are getting killed by the Tigers.
Not great.
See that. Not great. Not the greatest of times for your Boston Red Sox. But fortunately, we're not a Red Sox podcast, so you can go somewhere else for that. This is Bruins. And we will start with kind of the latest on the injury front, because now you got 3 Bruins who you're kind of worried about in the sense of Hampus Lindholm, Matt Grzelcyk, and David Pastrnak. Bruce Cassidy spoke after practice on Tuesday and didn't really give any new updates on them. Said, I thought both would be a little farther along by this time. So they didn't play Tuesday night, obviously. Doesn't feel like they'll play Thursday either. Does feel like Matt Grzelcyk could play Thursday. What is the latest on those guys?
Yeah, as you said, I think Grzelcyk seems to be the one who's closest to a return. Seems like it's something that he's been dealing with most of the year in terms of it's more just managing. And Cassidy mentioned that Grzelcyk, even though he's taken his fair share of hits, it's something that he's battled through before, and it tends to bounce back pretty quickly. It'll, looks bad and then kind of gets back out there. So they're not overly concerned with him. Obviously, I think if you go into a playoff series, it's be worried about just how much he's going to hold up there. But I think you saw in that game against the Capitals on Sunday just how valuable he is. So hopefully he's back sooner rather than later. And then for Pastrnak and Lindholm, not exactly that great, right? You imagine, both those guys were skating. They stayed on the road trip. So you imagine, all right, few days off for them, get them back, hopefully at some point in the next starting this homestand. I believe Steve Conroy, the Herald, said that both Pastrnak and Lindholm were out there earlier today on Tuesday before morning skate. So that's encouraging, but it seems almost like, they've mapped out their recovery and it's like, all right, they're getting here and they've kind of just plateaued a little bit before they get, the green light to get back out there, which, as you said, Bruce Cassidy said a little bit further along, or, it's taken a little bit longer than they expected. Also added that he doesn't think they're out. It's a long-term issue. So if you're the Bruins, obviously I think you'd probably like a little bit more clarity, or of course have them back out there, especially you look at just some of these matchups coming down the stretch here, whether it's the Blues, you got the Penguins coming to town. Love to have those guys back, especially who knows how that game would have been different against the Capitals if you had Pastrnak on the power play that's in an 0-for-16 rut, how much Lindholm would help just in terms of transitioning the puck and getting them out of the offensive zone. So, not ideal, but also it seems like even if, let's say Pastrnak and Lindholm miss this homestand, I don't think it's like a long-term issue that they're hoping for. Maybe if you want to spin a positive, it gives them a little bit more rest and hopefully they get back to 100% by the time you get to the playoffs.
Yeah, again, the positive of this is these regular season games, not to say they don't matter. They do matter, but you're not like
kind of feeling they don't matter.
You're not fighting to get into the playoffs. I guess it's more just seeing where you seed. So you don't need Lindholm and Pastrnak over these next 10 games. It's more so you just want them healthy. So if that means resting them, then as we've said a couple of times now, I guess you got to rest them. So going to be interesting to sort of follow that over the next few days. Hopefully Grzelcyk back soon. Hopefully they're all back at least by the playoffs. It feels like, though, there's enough time before the playoffs start where they can, if they're skating now, like Lindholm and Pastrnak, if they're skating now, you have to think come the playoffs, there shouldn't be any major setbacks by then. You'd think that it would kind of, grow towards that as the playoffs begin. So keep you updated on that. Remember to follow all the stuff at Boston Sports Journal because they're going to constantly update you on all the injury front over the next 10 games. Always fun for the injury stuff. But speaking of fun debates, the 7th player award is coming up. And it's always given out at the end of each regular season. It's always an interesting debate on who should win it. We have 3 people each we feel have legitimate cases for it. I think the first person we say is probably the person we think should win it most. at least in my book, that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to rank mine 1 through 3 pretty much. It hurts me that I can't do Nick Ritchie. Pains
honorary member, honorary submission.
It should be renamed to the Nick Ritchie Award in my book. I think fans should uproar for that to be the case. The Nessa Nick Ritchie 7th Player Award rolls off the tongue.
It does.
It does. It rolls right off the tongue. Conor, I will let you go first. Who do you have as your 7th player right now?
My guy's a little bit of a dark horse in that. Also, I believe he's won, so maybe that takes that and maybe knocks him down a little bit. But I'm going to go with Charlie Coyle. Actually, as a guy that I think should be getting recognition. And of course, you look at how great he's been on that third line center role and how much he's helped bring the most out of that grouping. But even when you look at his play earlier in the season when he was on that second line, was he the best fit with guys like like Taylor Hall? Probably not. But even then, you look at just the way he played and just how assertive he was, and the fact that his production was still there. I think if he stayed, when he finally got bumped off of that second line, I think he was still on track for 45 points, which is kind of a testament to him that line you could say right away was out of whack. They didn't play each other's strengths that well, but still he was producing. And I think you look at, especially for him, where he was last year, Coyle with that knee, and how much of a difference that offseason surgery has made for him. I mean, he looks like the same exact guy that I think Bruins fans saw back in the 2019 Cup run for most of 2020. Just a guy that, especially where he is now, where you can kind of exploit those matchups further down the lineup. He's just a puck possession monster and such a key matchup nightmare, I think, for the Bruins, and a guy that if the Bruins go far in the playoffs, Charlie Cole is probably going to play a pretty big hand in it if he's driving play on that third line. So a guy that, I think he won in 2020. And there's plenty of other guys. It's a good issue when the Bruins are doing well. It's a good thing that there's a lot of guys that should be up for the 7th Player Award, because you don't want it to be a year you get to the end of the season. It's all right, well, it's not really a 7th Player Award, but is it going to be Bergeron? It's one of those things that, remember in years past where they'd always do the 7th Player Award, it would be the most obvious guy. It's best player is what it used to be. It's gotten better over the last couple of years. You had Richie last year, you had Wagner in 2019. So fans have, I think, kind of caught on, but it's usually if the Bruins have a lot of guys up for grabs for it, it means you have a lot of guys pulling on the rope, contributing outside of your kind of core group of players. So I'll go with Coyle for mine.
It's good that we have 6 legitimate people here and more, actually. I don't think it's just these 6. I think a lot of guys have cases. Did Halak ever win it? I don't believe so. But I think 2019 would have been his year.
Yeah, it would have been 2019, but that was Coyle, local guy. And again, Wagner was good that year, I think, when he won. So it was he had 10 goals, 4th line role, but provided what you kind of needed out of that spot, right? And helps.
4 goals. Yeah, definitely helped. The local part always kind of helps these guys. Might help a lot in Coyle's case this season. The other thing you mentioned with Coyle that was interesting was he was producing well. I remember when we were doing those podcasts back in October, November, when a lot of guys were not producing offensively, it was always Charlie Coyle is actually producing where he should be on the second line. It just isn't meshing with Hall the way that we thought he would. Definitely something important to note there. My first pick is going to be who took over for Charlie Coyle on that second line. That's Eric Halla, who I guess was a late addition to the 7th player voting, but it's still I think should be the guy. You just look at how terrific he's been between Taylor Hall on that second line and now David Pastrnak, and how that has just meshed. And Halla is, again, we kind of thought Halla was going to be there to just pick up the loose scraps, but he's actually been doing a really good job scoring goals, setting plays up, driving play at times. He's been terrific on that second line. He's kind of proven, at least from what we've seen, proven us all wrong by proving that he is kind of a second line center. So to me, I think that's a perfect example of someone who stepped up when you needed someone to step up on that second line. You lose Krejci over the offseason. Coyle's not really a fit there, but Halla kind of went in and has made an impact the entire time, because he's been there since what? Was that January that move was
I think it was
made?
January when he flipped over there, and he's been dynamite, as you said.
He's been dynamite. So, okay, you're up next. Who would be your secondary person for the?
So I'm going to go I'm going to go with the goaltenders, but I'm going to go with the one that probably is not going to get most of the votes, and that's Linus Ullmark, a guy who started off very slow. He's had kind of like a tale of like 4 seasons. He started off slow, kind of really carried you through like the doldrums of like November, December, where it was Swayman kind of hit a little bit of a rut there. You didn't know what was going on with Tuukka Rask. You had the COVID wave, all this stuff. And I think during that whole stretch, I think Ullmark went like 13-3-1. So helped you out there. After Rask comes back, it's another pretty ugly downturn for 4 or 5 games. And then he's been money since then. And so again, I think you look at whether it be kind of just the new factor of him filling in there, or kind of that slow start. You had this narrative forever that he wasn't worth it. And I guess it doesn't help your case when a guy like Jeremy Swayman does so well. And he's the guy that's been crowned as the heir apparent, the guy who's stormed onto the scene last year. So Ullmark was already kind of fighting an uphill battle. But for all the talk about Ullmark and not being worth the money, or what's the point of having him when you could have signed insert veteran goalie journeyman here for $800K. I think you're seeing now, whether it be, giving Jeremy Swayman some time to reacclimate and get his game back in order, or performing in these high pressure situations. I mean, he was money in that game down in Tampa Bay. Like, he's proven his worth. And even if down the stretch it ends up being Jeremy Swayman's net again, Ullmark at the very least has been a steadying presence for this team, a solid veteran guy, and a guy that, in terms of being in a potential awkward situation, whether it be fighting for ups with Swayman, the Tuukka Rask narrative, has been on board the entire time, which I think should be commended as well for kind of handling it in stride. So he gets my vote for being a guy that deserves recognition for the 7th player award.
A great stopgap during those lulls for Swayman and the team, where it's kind of like they're going different directions. And I think he's been good. He's been high when the rest of the team's been low. So I think that's been a good thing. I will go with the other goaltender. I'll go with Jeremy Swayman. You look at sort of, again, started the year off really well. Obviously had a really hot stretch when he came back from Rask's thing. And I think, again, like, looks like a starter. I know he's gone through his lulls during the season. That's expected for a rookie goaltender. I mean, remember, Tuukka Rask was up and down throughout the beginning of his career. Like, you don't just come in and just take the league by storm. And he certainly didn't do that. So I think it's really encouraging to see Swayman have these really hot stretches this year. You hope that, I think the Bruins hope that somehow that this lull for him, he can come out of it right around the playoffs. And I think that's what they're kind of hoping for, where, again, if they're going to be streaky at different times, so what? Like, yes, you go with the hot hand at that time. So Swayman's been terrific. Again, rookie of the month in February. You just look at just how good he was during that time, how steady. And again, like all season with Swayman, it was always, he's not getting the top teams. He's playing, the worst teams and getting wins. That's why his stats are so good. That changed when he came back after Rask's retirement. So I would go as a secondary vote for Swayman. I think Swayman's been really terrific this year and definitely deserving of the 7th player.
And I also think that if you ask me the betting odds of who's going to win, I think we disagree with who should win, but who will win. I would say probably Swayman has the inside track.
You think Swayman's going to be the guy?
If we have predictions, if we want to put a prediction right now, I think Swayman will be the guy.
Interesting. I don't think he'll be. I think he'll end up being either Coyle or Holla. I feel like it would be one of those two. But I guess I'll go with my own. I'll say Holla. But that's interesting. That's way. Yeah, maybe. I mean, the fans love him. I think the goalie hug definitely helps. Mm-hmm. Like, that's going to be a huge thing.
What if they both win it? What if both Swayman and Ullmark win and they do a big hug with like the 7th player award in the middle?
Then the garden roof would explode and land in Chelsea, like you said.
The TD God, not Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, not
MSG. We're not having this fight again.
Someone should have replied, and this is kind of when you think about a great comeback after the fight, but someone should have jumped in and been like, it's not the Garden, it's MSG. And have to be like, what? But yeah, that would be epic if it was Ullmark and Swayman and they did the big hug and they picked up the trophy together after they hugged. That would be that should be what it ends up
quite
being.
Quite a Kodak moment.
That is literally, well, not Kodak at the Panthers game, but yes.
Oh no,
not that.
This is a PG-13 rated podcast, Evan. So
this is gonna be rated R. Anyways, that kind of needs to be put in the stratosphere. Swayman and Ullmark both winning it.
Speaking into existence, yeah.
Speaking into existence, they need to be absolutely even for that. Who is your next person? Your final of the three?
Yeah, I think this one's definitely kind of an under the radar guy, but someone who I think has proven me wrong, and I'm sure a lot of other guys, is Trent Frederick, who, again, you look at where he's kind of fit into that spot on that third line, and he's kind of struggled a little bit since coming back from injury, but I think you're going to give him a little bit of time to get reacclimated out there. But for a stretch of, a month, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, he was playing the best hockey of his career. And it wasn't, again, like he was reinventing the wheel, or he wasn't chasing guys around the ice, like looking for a fight. It was just letting the game come naturally to him, being physical, making the right sound plays, not the high danger passes or anything like that, just winning pucks, being assertive on the forecheck, controlling board battles, all those things that go a long way, especially when you got a couple other capable veterans on your line, when Charlie Coyle and Craig Smith. So, I think Frederick's a guy that, in terms of maybe what helps his case, is just exceeding expectations, because I think for first few months of this year, it's like, all right, is this guy even a fourth liner? Like, what exactly are we doing with him in terms of what his role is? And he's really rebounded in a big way, and he's been a really important part of why that third line has clicked so much over the last couple of months.
If there was a most improved, I feel like he would win it. Feels like he's the most improved in the roster, and the one that I kind of exceeded expectations. I mean, I guess Eric Halla could as well. But again, like the expectations around Frederick, first round pick, but probably like a fourth liner. For a while, didn't even look like a fourth liner. So now it's kind of good for him that fitting on that third line. I could absolutely see him posting a really good case, as you just said, for the 7th player award. Mine is a little out of left field. I'm going to go Thomas Nosek. Again, like that's a guy who doesn't get a lot of attention, but has low key been the stabilizing force of that fourth line for months now. Again, like we say this every year, you have to have a good, the fourth line's got to be good, especially with this Bruins team where they can shut other teams down. And he's been solid. Like he's not going to win this award. The points don't jump off the sheet. But you look at stabilizing presence, I can't remember the last time this year we were questioning who should be the center of the fourth line. It feels like he's been there all year. And a spot that was completely up for grabs at the beginning of the year. And also, Nosek can jump into the top 6 when you need him, right? When a guy goes down, he's the guy who goes up. So he's someone to me who, he will not win this award, but I think he has a legit case for it. And I think he's been extremely underrated throughout this year. And for what you've got from him, he's been a very underrated signing by Don Sweeney this past offseason. So very good out of him. Those are our 6. I don't think we missed anyone big. I don't think there was anyone that has a huge case for it outside of those 6.
Yeah. I mean, it's also, as you said, it's a testament to the Bruins and just how balanced they are this year, though, that there's other guys though, who have, come on strong as of late. Like Lazar has had a couple of really big games for the team. He feels like he's been robbed of at least 4 or 5 goals, right? With some of the chances he's generated. Craig Smith, who again was really slow to start out, but you look at what kind of turned the tide of that third line. For a little bit of a stretch there, they were possessing the puck well. They were generating chances. They weren't burying them. Craig Smith gets hot, and all of a sudden those, high danger chances start cashing in. So, you look at Grzelcyk, you can look at a few other guys. It's just so many guys are pulling on the rope, which is great to see for the Bruins. And it makes it probably tough for someone voting for this thing, because there's a lot of guys who warrant some praise for how they're contributed to the overall group.
Don't the fans vote on this? Isn't this done through the NESN website? Yes. Yeah, so it's everyone. Anyone can go vote for this.
Yes.
This is not like just us writers or anything. Anybody can vote for these.
Thank God. It would probably be screwed up if it was just the writers doing it. So
yeah, we would try.
Charlie Coyle isn't the only center. That'd be our.
Yes, I would vote for Sway. We need to vote for Olmark just so we can have
exactly,
so they can end up getting it together.
Yes,
I like that. I love that idea. Now we're going to the top question the Bruins still need to answer over the final 3 weeks. What, in your mind, is the biggest question they need to answer?
I still think it has to be the goaltending situation, and whether it's not just the fact of who do you roll with when you get to the playoffs between Olmark and Swayman. Do you roll with a rotation in net, which is very unorthodox to the playoffs, but wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for the Bruins to adapt that. But not just that, but also can Olmark keep up this stretch? Because as I already said, he's had kind of these ebbs and flows with how his season has gone. So can he keep up this level of play? And also Swayman, who I think when he's on his game and playing at his top level, he probably gives you the best overall chance to win, but you need to get him back to that level, right? You can't have him playing, have an 890 save percentage over an extended sample size and then just drop him into a first round matchup against Carolina, right? Like that's not one, you're in for a world of pain, and that's not going to help out your young goaltender if he's fighting the game and you feed him to the wolves in that regard too. So I think it's that overall goaltending situation, not just how it plays out, but getting Swayman right and getting him back locked back in is going to be key down the stretch here. One of the few things worth watching, because otherwise, God, this is a grind right now, Evan.
Yes. Oh, it is a very big grind. The fact that on Bruins we made a whole storyline on Torrey Krug's return should pretty much say that in and of itself. To me, I think the biggest question, aside from who's starting in net, what are the D pairings? Like again, the third the third pairing on D. What is that? Is it going to be Forbort and Riley? Is it going to be Forbort and Clifton? Is it going to be Riley and Clifton? Is Josh Brown going to be in there? Like, I think that's a huge thing. And I also have to think you have to figure out, when Lindholm does get healthy, are you going to roll with Lindholm McAvoy, who looked really good? Are you going to do Grzelcyk and McAvoy, who looked terrific, and then kind of see if Lindholm and Carlo can put it together? I think you have a lot of question marks there. And again, with Lindholm injured, you don't really have a lot of options to figure all these things out. And Grzelcyk potentially injured, or Grzelcyk injured, at least for right now. That's another thing. So I think there's a lot of question marks on D. In some ways, though, it is a good problem, kind of like the goaltending, if everyone's playing well, because you have options, right? You're not like, this isn't the 2017 lineup they're putting out against the Senators, where they were pulling, Rene Rancourt to play on the third D pairing. Like this is a better issue. They have more on the depth chart. So that to me is the biggest question. That you have to kind of figure that out. And maybe that's something that changes during the playoffs. Forbort and Riley have a terrific game and suddenly they're together all the time. I don't know, but you don't have a lot of time to figure it out because you do have those injuries to think about. Another question is David Pastrnak healthy, right? His thing, again, it's not like a thing that you can just fix. It's more fixed by rest. Is that going to act up in the second round this year? Like, I think, and that's not really a question you can have answered by the end of the season. So lots of question marks. Do you have any others that are pressing, or just the ones we said?
I think just those are the main ones. I think the forward core, once everyone's healthy, obviously the Pastrnak thing is the big question there, but you kind of know what you're rolling with and who the depth pieces are, or like a guy like Bleed or what have you on the fourth line. I think it's just, solving that goaltending situation and the defense, I think. And obviously injuries. The last thing you want is more injuries to sprout up. As much as I think people are really concerned because the Bruins have been playing so well and now you have the injury bug kind of hitting you. It's also not like 2018 where, Carlo goes down, breaks his leg, 3 games before the season ends.
Yeah.
Kevin Miller, I think he fractured his kneecap. That was the penultimate game. I think up in Minnesota. So you're not having that yet, which is good. And you hope that even, I think probably some Bruins fans are getting antsy, the fact that you haven't seen a gradual progression with, Pastrnak and Lindholm, at least they're recuperating. They're not getting taxed being out there right now. And you hope by the time we get to the end of April, start of May, they'll be ready to go.
Hopefully that is the case. Conor, that is today's episode. What can people look forward to from you over at Boston Sports Journal? Yeah,
we're going to continue to have all of the, signature BSJ content, daily stuff with game reports, columns, previews. We're still working on a couple of features we hope to drop before the playoffs get underway and that schedule ramps up. So all that stuff will be over at BSJ. So subscribe at bostonsportsjournal.com. Want to follow me on Twitter? You can do that at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Poke the Bear listeners. Have a terrific rest of your day.